Hello, and welcome to Courtney's Corner with our special guest, Sophie.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
So, Sophie, I hear you've recently starred as one of the main characters in the book Sophie's Choice by William Styron.
Yes, it was a great project to be involved in.
So, can you give us a little background about the character Stingo?
Yeah, Stingo, he was from the South, and he moved to New York to become a writer, and that's where he met my character Sophie and my boyfriend Nathan.
So how did your character and Stingo meet?
Well, when he first moved to New York, he worked at a publishing house called McGraw-Hill and Company, but he hated editing other people's work, so he quit, and that's when he moved into my apartment.
So, can you tell us a little about yourself? Where are you from?
Actually, I'm originally from Poland, that's where my family's from, but I moved to New York after World War II.
Interesting. So, how about your boyfriend you mentioned before?
Well, me and Nathan, we met recently after I moved to New York, and at the time I was very poor and I was very sick, but he took me in and he cared for me. He's very kind and compassionate until he has one of his outbreaks.
An outbreak?
Yeah, not very many people know, but Nathan's a paranoid schizophrenic. Sometimes he becomes very violent and delusional.
In the book it talks a lot about your father. What was your family like?
Well, we seemed like a normal family until the war, which is when my father, he was a professor at Krakow, he became involved in anti-Semitic activities.
What was Poland like at that time?
Oh, Poland was wonderful before the war. There was always music playing, and I love classical music, but after the war, there were no longer radios, our food was rationed, and sometimes we barely had enough money to pay for electricity.
In the story you get put into Auschwitz. How did you end up in a concentration camp?
Well, I'm not Jewish, but I did break the law. At the time, we weren't allowed to have meat because it was all supposed to go to the soldiers. But my mother, she was very ill, so I decided some meat might help her. Unfortunately, on the way I got caught.
Tell us about Auschwitz.
Honestly, it's a really horrible place. Probably too horrible to describe in words. Luckily, I was one of the few survivors, but even then, I almost died of multiple nutrient deficiencies.
We're almost out of time, but first, there's one more thing I'm curious about. Are you glad that the author decided to include you in his book?
Yes. In the book, Stingo thinks that he can try to take a stab at writing about Auschwitz, but near the end he says, "No one will ever understand Auschwitz." Even then, I think that the book depicts the events very well, and I'm glad that my side of the story could be included in it.
Well, thank you for coming and giving us some wonderful insight on the book, which is available for purchase starting tomorrow. Until next time, this has been another episode of Courtney's Corner. Good night, everyone!